Hi, I'm Clara, Miss World Australia National Finalist and co-founder of Girls Trade, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project. Hello?
Live. All right. Okay. So, Jesus. Okay. It's going to be one of those days, isn't it? Hey, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. Apologies for that very unprofessional start. But just as I was about to go live, my computer froze and I couldn't see or hear anything. My special guest for today is a familiar face, Clara Momesso, who's a Miss World Australia national finalist. Top 5 finish, I was going to say last year, but it wasn't last year, was it? It was 2019.
The year before, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's been a while. And she's also co-founder and director of marketing for Girls Trade. So, Clara, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's always nice being back. Third time lucky.
Oh, don't say that. In between your issues and between my issues, I don't know what's going on. Catch us up. How have things been down in sunny old Melbourne?
Oh, it's definitely not sunny. It's actually a really nice day today, but we haven't had the greatest weather. It's been good. It's been really good. I feel like Miss World is creeping up on us slowly, and I'm getting to know a lot of the girls, which has been awesome, and lots of stuff happening for Girls Trade. So it's a really nice change compared to 2020, where this time last year we were kind of sitting at home, not being able to do anything. So everything's moving quite quickly, but it's awesome.
Have you felt like you've had too much time to prepare? Just as an odd question. I mean, because you've been preparing for this now for what, like 18 months or more? So are you just at that stage now where it's like, come on, let's just get this over and done with? Is too much time to prepare?
You know what? Not really, to be honest, because I took a break during last year, during COVID, from prepping, rehearsing, all of that, because I knew that would be an issue. And I think it's always better to prepare, not at the last minute, but to prepare in a time frame or a space where it's close enough to the competition where you can still remember everything, you're still on the ball, you've still got lots of stuff happening, and you can kind of put it together really nicely. So I did take a couple of months off at about this time last year. And then I kind of started back up again like October, November last year, and have been going since then.
Okay, cool. That sounds
Yeah.
like a smart decision.
Yeah, that's
Guys, I
right.
can see you watching. So if you have any questions for Clara, whether it's about pageantry or what we're about to dive into a lot is Girls Trade, the app that Clara is a co-founder of. And I've been making a recent, I think Clara's probably you're the second or third, probably the second pageant competitor that I reached out to interview. I'm calling you guys pageantpreneurs. I don't know if anyone else has used that phrase before, but this idea that you're a pageant competitor, but you're also an entrepreneur. When I reached out to you, you said that was your two favorite topics, pageantry and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I spoke to you a lot about pageantry. Can you tell me a bit about your entrepreneurial journey, how that got started?
Yeah, so I've been part of the Girls Trade team for nearly 3 years now, and it's been great. So the Girls Trade business started as a Facebook group. Our Facebook's been around for nearly 6 years now, where our founder Angus started this Facebook group kind of as a joke with his mates when we were still at school, and from there it kind of grew and grew and grew, and it got to a point where he decided that there was a lot of barriers to kind of enhancing the Girls Trade brand and providing additional support and additional services. So we surveyed a lot of our girls and basically asked them, what would you like from us that basically we can't give you now because we're running through Facebook? And that's how we created the app. And I came on board through a family friend who was working with Angus on Girls Trade at the time. And as you can imagine, it was a little bit awkward for two grown men to be working on a predominantly women-only business and platform. So when I came into the mix, I am essentially our target audience. I've been part of the Girls Trade Facebook group since it launched. So I can think like the consumer, sorry. I can think like the consumer because I am the consumer, but I can also bring my experience into the role. So I am studying law and media and comms at uni. I don't have too long to go actually, which is great. So I have had a real passion for marketing. So I jumped on board a couple of years ago. We work with the lovely Ebony, who does a lot of our sales, and she gives me a hand with marketing as well. And she's been awesome. So we have been pushing ahead. We launched the app a couple of years ago, but obviously with COVID, that was a huge blow for us. It was really, really hard to work out where to next. Financially, it was costing us a lot to kind of keep the app running for no reason because no one was going anywhere. So no one was buying, hiring, or selling any clothes. So we switched the app off for most of 2020, which was really hard. It was almost like all the progress and everything that we'd worked towards and everything we were doing was put on pause. We also, this was devastating for me. We had a new branch of our business that we were going to launch in March last year. It was basically, we had opened up our own renting studio. We had bought our own dresses to rent, and we were going to have that as an additional means of financial income for our business. We set the studio up, we did renovations, we did this whole, it was all pink, it was beautiful. We had all the dresses, everything. And the week of launch is the week that we went into lockdown. And obviously we had to forfeit the property, and we weren't able to continue paying rent for it, so we had to pivot. So yeah, that's where we're at.
I mean, that's very entrepreneurial talk. Pivot is another way of saying all hell broke loose. I mean, that in terms of timing, I can't think of anything worse. I mean, to literally open that week of, I remember that week of March because that's when I came back from the UK because I was attending a pageant overseas, and I said, like, if I'd gone a week earlier or later, I either would never have gone or I would have been stuck in the UK maybe until this day. I mean, when that all happened, I mean, first off, how did you guys all emotionally react? Because I mean, like, what do you do?
I guess we were in a little bit of denial, and I think a lot of people kind of felt this way too. The first lockdown came, it's like, oh, give it a month, we'll be back, everything will be back to normal, it's all fine. So we weren't really expecting the lockdown to go to basically the end of last year. So we had to really it was very hard for us because there was absolutely no point of having our app up and running if people weren't able to use it because of the current climate and environment. So it was a real challenge for us. I think we struggled a lot, but it was actually a really good opportunity for us, and we seized the opportunity. And I'm actually quite glad that it happened, because what we were able to do was stop the app, put it on pause, evaluate our progress for that first 4 months that the app was live and running, see what we were doing right, see what we were doing wrong, and then and we had so much time to finesse our strategy for relaunch, which I think worked really well for us, because there were a lot of things that we had done, marketing and otherwise, that weren't that effective. And if we had have kept going, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to stop and reflect. So I think it worked out really well for us that we had that break, but it was stressful. It sucked. Our personal lives, we were all struggling as well, as I'm sure everyone else was. So it definitely wasn't easy, having so much uncertainty, but I think it was a really good opportunity for us to stop and reflect on where we were at and where we could improve for our relaunch after COVID.
When did you relaunch, Clara? Was it this year? Was it late last year?
It was late last year. It was literally about the same time that we launched the first time. It was a few weeks before. So it was November, December, and we relaunched and we started charging people for the app, which we no longer do anymore, because we realized it's not really a feasible option. There was a variety of reasons why we chose not to do that anymore, but we put a price on the app, basically just to give us a bit of catch up because we
Yeah.
weren't able to operate for so long. And we got great traction, as soon as all the borders started opening up and, bars and restaurants started opening, everyone wanted to go out and wear all these outfits. So it really boomed, which was lovely. So we, that was the plan. And so we relaunched in, I think, November or December of late last year.
Right. And from what I can tell, because I downloaded the app yesterday to have a play with it, and I saw the, I don't know how many guys are using the app, but I'm one of them. But in terms of the app, the reviews on the App Store, I mean, you've got quite a few reviews, and they're unanimously 5 stars. It's not like mainly 5 stars; it's all 5 stars. So, what's the feedback been like? I mean, not only the first time, but this second time around, what's the feedback been like with the app?
We've had really good feedback. We've also had really helpful feedback that's helped us to improve our user interface, which is great. We love constructive feedback, and if we can fix anything to make it more user-friendly or to make it easier, we definitely want to hear that. But we have a very loyal group of consumers and girls that a lot of them know on a first name basis. We spent a lot of COVID getting to know our girls and knowing what they do and the reason that they use Girls Trade and what they like about it and what they don't like and how we can help them and promote their business through our platforms. So when we ask for feedback, everybody is really honest with us, which is helpful. But we have gotten, as you said, a lot of really good 5-star reviews from our consumer base. So overall, the general consensus has been that it's quite helpful, but there are also still things that we're working on behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, sure. I probably should have started with this, but if you had to explain what Girls Trade does, that entrepreneurial, that 30-second pitch or whatever it is, probably should have started with this. I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching already know, but just for the people who don't know what it is, do you want to explain? I mean, you said it started as a Facebook group, but what's the idea behind Girls Trade?
I probably should have said that in my intro too, so that's probably my fault more than it is yours.
You just start talking, it's all good.
Yeah, we're a hiring, buying, and selling of pre-loved fashion platform for young women. So at the moment, we're Oz-based. We have girls from all over Australia use our platform, and it really is a way. Our main goals are 2 things. The first thing is to slow down or eradicate fast fashion by keeping clothes within the community and out of waste for longer. And the second thing we're trying to do is give girls the opportunity to start their own businesses and to make money on the side. There are a lot of girls in our community that have started renting businesses off the back of our app and are doing really well and are making an income, quite a substantial income off that. So it's giving girls that opportunity, and we're providing that platform for girls to have that interaction.
It's amazing. I love the fact that the app actually gives girls a chance to start their own business. So it's not just you guys in business, it's the other girls being able to turn their wardrobe into a business. Can you give me, I've been looking into fast fashion probably over the last year when I first became aware of it. I haven't done a lot of research into it yet, but can you give us an idea of just how big a problem fast fashion is? And I say this because someone brought to attention an Instagram page about 2 weeks ago, and they are literally measuring the ethics of some of the major fashion labels in terms of whether they pay people enough, because very often the clothes aren't made in first world countries, they're made in poorer countries. And then also the fast fashion in terms of the impact on the environment. And I've got to say, some of the major labels, even some of the ones used in pageantry, are unfortunately not scoring that well. I think one of them got a 0 in the UK, but 0 out of 100. Can you give us an idea how big the fast fashion problem is?
I think I actually had a conversation about this with my co-founder the other day. There was an episode on A Current Affair like last week about Pretty Little Thing, and they did like an undercover investigation where they went to the warehouse and they were badgering the guy that owns it, and it was horrific. And I think from that, the conversation that we had was, I don't think people actually understand the gravity of fast fashion and how significant of an issue it really is until you start reading the stats and seeing how impactful this problem actually is. So fast fashion, to give you an idea, it's the second largest polluter in the world behind oils. So it's huge, it's huge. And the problem with fast fashion is it's so multifaceted because it's not only an environmental issue, it's actually an ethical issue as well.
Yeah.
We're looking at issues of, slave labor, unsafe work conditions, like in sweatshops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People aren't getting
Yeah.
minimum wage. People are working illegally. And these are huge issues, and they're all part of this fast fashion umbrella. So it's not only about the environment, but it's the people that are actually making the clothes that are
Mm.
suffering. And I think we don't speak about that enough. I think fast fashion as a whole is often spoken about only from an environmental perspective. And
Yep.
while the impact on the environment is significant and it's really important and it's so great, and there's so much fashion waste every year because of it stems from a very systemic problem. So it stems from, the impact. It really does start from the impacts of social media because of social media and the way that we use it, we don't feel like we can wear an outfit more than once. We feel like we always have to be in the latest trends at all times to look our best, and because we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. And so what happens when that is the case is we're buying and buying and buying so many clothes, and it's so unnecessary. And because the trends are coming in and out in the space of 1 or
Yeah.
2 weeks, things are just
Yeah.
getting thrown out. So there's significant amount of waste, but it's also about the ethical side of fast fashion. It's so unethical to make people work for, as little as 20 cents an hour in these really unsafe conditions, where they're in these factories without proper supervision and they're using unsafe machinery and equipment, and kids as young as 7 are in these factories working, and we don't see any of that.
Mm.
And I think the fast fashion industry is expected to double the value of not fast fashion, ethical fashion. It's expected to double in the next 4 or
Good.
5 years, which
Right.
is huge. So I think it
Yeah.
is coming onto the human conscience progressively. I think it's taken us a long time, but we cannot underestimate the impact. So I think what's great about what we do is we're trying to keep these clothes in the community for longer and out of the wasteland, because one person's trash is another person's treasure, and vice versa. So
Mm.
we're really trying to get as much use as we can out of our clothes.
The human side of it, the ethics, as you said, I'm not surprised that a lot of people don't know about it, because obviously if you're the big label making those clothes, you're hardly going to want anyone to know about that. And that's probably the side of it that shocked me most. I think because environmental awareness has become such a huge thing, there's quite a lot of awareness around it now. But I don't think a lot of the time you go and buy your fancy new clothes from a certain shop, I don't think a lot of people realize who made it and maybe some of the concerns around that.
Exactly.
In terms of how you make a change, right? Because I know a lot of people, look, guys love clothes, women love clothes, and pageantry, obviously, we adore clothes. We do fashion hauls and all that sort of thing. So, in terms of what's the best way for, let's say, a young woman who doesn't have $1 million, but loves her fashion, is there some way that you would say, okay, here's how you can actually help us make a difference? Is it where you go to buy? Is it buy less? Is it obviously using an app such as Girls Trade would certainly help? But if someone was like, okay, watching this going, yeah, I do want to help with this, but how do I help? Do I now have to spend $1,000 on something I would have spent $10 on before? What's the best advice you could give someone like that?
I think it depends on how you like to wear your clothes and what clothes you like to wear. But I think the solution is the business model that we've adopted at Girls Trade. I think hiring is a really, really big one. So instead of going and spending $300 or $400 on a dress, or buying, $20 dresses from a fast fashion business, you can hire a dress for as little as $20. We've
Mhm.
got rentals that vary in price from, I don't know, $20, $50, $100, depending on what brand it is. When you hire, you're not contributing to waste. So hiring is a really, really big one. It is so sustainable to hire, because there'll be one dress that gets worn 1,000 times by 1,000 different girls, as opposed to 1,000 girls buying one of
Separate
that
dresses.
dress. So
Yeah, yeah,
hiring is a really great way to do that when you're going out or you've got events. Obviously, for everyday clothes, it's a little bit different, because you're not going to hire an outfit every day that you wear an
yeah,
outfit to work or
yeah.
whatever. I would suggest two things for everyday outfits. One thing would be to shop pre-loved as much as you can. And the thing I love about Girls Trade is, if you are looking for work clothes, active wear, lounge wear, denim jeans, whatever it is, there will be a girl in there who has them that no longer wants them or wants to wear them. So shopping pre-loved is a really great way to help. And I think they're probably the two biggest ways. If you don't want to wear other people's clothes, some people don't want to do that. That's fine.
Yeah.
I would just suggest that you do your research into the brands that you're supporting and buying from, because you will find that the more ethical brands probably charge a little bit more for their pieces, but
Yeah,
they're
of
made
course.
in a more ethical way. They last you a lot longer because the fabrics and the quality is a lot better. And what you would do with that is, obviously it's a little bit more expensive. You would buy staple pieces that you wear all the time, and then all your other stuff you'd either buy pre-loved or you'd hire for events and like nights out.
Right, that makes sense. I think also
Yeah,
when you're doing your research, if the company is making an effort to be ethical, they will probably put that up front and center with their marketing, because it's going to
exactly.
be a huge deal. So I would almost say, if they don't mention that, that's probably a warning sign, because they're obviously not going to
Exactly.
say we're unethical, right? It doesn't
That's
doesn't make
right.
for good publicity. Okay, so someone downloads the app. So for people who haven't downloaded the app before, they download the app and let's say they want to hire some clothes. Can you just walk people through the process as to how it actually works? And then we'll also take it, let's say, from the seller's point of view, or the person who wants to hire, in terms of creating a business. But I go on, I want to hire a piece. So what is the process that happens? How does it payment handled? What security is there? Postage, etc., all that stuff.
It's really, really easy. So when you get on the app, the first thing is, our app has been set up to be a really eclectic mix of Facebook and Instagram. So the features are very usable, familiar features that you would be using every day when you're using Facebook or Instagram. So we have a discover page. You will have your own profile. It will have, you
Just bring
can,
up the screen share here. This is the Girls Trade site, so there's a
yes.
screen grab there.
Yes, so that is the Discover page. You can actually filter a search via the Discover page. You can search
Yeah.
through, yeah, you can
Keyword,
search,
category, size, brand, rent/buy/ looking for, min price,
yes,
max price, and location.
yes. So you can be really specific about exactly what you want to buy or what you're looking for. If you don't have anything in mind, you can just scroll through the Discover page the way
Mhm.
you would when you're online shopping, and it has every single outfit that's been listed on the app. So if you do want to rent or buy something, you literally just click on it and make an inquiry, and based on the way the listings are set up, you'll be able to see how much it is, what the brand is, what the size is, what condition it's in. If the seller has provided you with an option for meetup or postage, and how much that costs, if you have to dry clean it, that sort of thing. Once you make an inquiry, the seller has to obviously accept your offer.
Mhm.
And we actually have a secure payment system built into our back end. So
Mhm.
this is something that we obviously weren't able to do on Facebook, and we didn't
Yeah.
really sit right with us that we didn't have any way of being able to mediate the financial process in these
Mm.
transactions. So our safe and secure transaction system allows us to mediate should there be any issues. I don't know, you didn't receive the parcel, or it's come and it's dirty, or anything like that.
Yeah.
We can actually get involved, which is great. Um, and also, if you're renting an outfit, it actually gives the seller the option to implement a bond. So, say the bond's $50, the
Mhm.
buyer or the renter would pay the $50. It gets held in our secure payment system in the cloud, and it
Yep.
gets released once the outfit is returned, as it was given. So that's basically it. The buyer also has the opportunity, and vice versa, to review the other party. We found this
Yeah.
it's actually one of my favorite tools that we've implemented into the app, because you can basically review your experience with the other person. I don't know, they were a great renter, they were really quick to reply, or, not really great, communication wasn't very good, or she gave it back to me with a stain, or whatever it is. And your reviews lie on your platform, on your profile, sorry. So everyone can see the star rating that you get. It's almost like Uber. You can put a profile photo up, you can put your Instagram handle in your bio, and that's pretty much it. You've also got a home page. So if you're a buyer, you can follow certain sellers or other people on the app.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can actually follow them the same way you would on Instagram. And then when you're scrolling through your homepage, if they're posting listings, they'll actually come up in your feed.
I did not know that. That was a clever one.
Yeah,
So if you've got if you've got following someone and you love their fashion sense, you're going to want to know when they bring new pieces in. I
that's
love
right.
the review. I love the review system. I think it's almost a necessity just for
Yes.
the trust. Because I mean,
Yeah,
having the financial side of it held is one thing, but anytime I hire an outsourcer, like on Fiverr or an Uber driver, obviously I want to know that I'm hiring someone who's trustworthy.
that's
So I
right.
love. Is it a 5-star system similar to Uber, or have
Yes.
you? Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So you rate out of 5 stars, and you can leave a comment. And on the Discover page, I think this is really cool, where the little bubbles are at the top.
At
They're
the top, yep.
actually different. Yeah, they're different categories of clothes. So if you don't
Oh, yeah.
actually know
So
what you're
high-end
looking
slash
for,
designer, work slash corporate wear, formal wear, dresses,
yes.
and there's others to the side.
Yes. So if you want shoes, for example, there's a little tab for shoes. You press on it, and all the shoes will come up.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Just technical question. Is it, I know it's on iOS because I downloaded it. Is it on Android? Coming out on Android?
It is coming out on Android. We're forecasting that to be our next move, but it's not on
Okay.
Android at the moment.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now, what was I going to ask? So that's the app. Oh, from the for someone
Seller.
wanting to start a business. Yeah. Okay. So the main issue that I've, especially in pageantry circle, because you would know that, do I want to hire out my couture gown that's worth $10,000? Probably not. But in terms of that issue, it's like people like, if I hire out my clothes, they're going to get ruined. So what steps are there in place, or how can someone who wants to start a business be reassured that, okay, your clothes are going to come back, and for the most part, they're going to come back in really good shape and not just be completely torn up?
Yeah. Look, it's not an issue that happens very often, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah,
Our girls tend to be pretty honest, but we do have safeguards in place to make sure that if there are any issues, we're able to mitigate that, and we're able to mediate that. So as I said before, if you were to upload a dress and you wanted to rent that out, you have the option of putting a bond on that outfit,
mm,
and it can be as much as you want. It can be $200, $300, $80,
right,
whatever it is.
yeah,
And that bond does not come to the seller. It does not come to the buyer until the transaction has been completed, and when the seller returns the dress. When the
yeah.
buyer returns the dress back to the seller actually presses a button to say, "Yep, I've received the dress back and it's all good. Release the bond."
Released, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same when you work on Upwork or freelancing sites. Both
Yes.
parties have to agree that everything's good. Then the money's released. Up until that point,
That's
the
right.
actual company, in this case, you guys, would keep the money separately. It stays there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
if there's a dispute, then you guys have to step in and mediate. But I'm
That's
assuming
right.
it's an extremely rare circumstance. But it's just good to have that safety of mind, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is a very rare circumstance, but I empathize with the girls that are hiring out $300 or $400 dresses that they may have only worn once, because things happen. You're out at a
Yeah,
party and a drink spills, or I don't know, whatever it is. Mistakes happen. A lot of the time, it is a mistake, and girls are very honest, and they get
yeah,
reimbursed for the dress, or it gets fixed. But it is really important for us to make sure that our community are aware that we are putting measures in place to safeguard these
yeah.
businesses, and to make sure that there's no issues.
100%. And I mean, the review system would almost be even more important in that sense, because obviously, if you've
Yes,
done something wrong, they're going to leave a negative review, and then everyone can see it. So I think
that's
that's super
right.
important.
Yeah, that's
Just
right.
in terms of, because I love the idea that girls can start a business based on their fashion or on their wardrobe. Do you have any tips for someone who is starting up or looking to start a business on the app? What are some of the people who are doing the best, making the most money through the app? Are there certain categories of fashion that they're concentrating on? Is it something to do with the sort of photos they take, so they show up on the explore page? What are the tips if someone wants to get started and wants to make, let's say, a big business out of it?
I think it really comes down to the photos that you use for your listings. I think you need to use really high quality photos. And most of the girls that have been quite successful have reached out to us and have actually said, look, I want to start a business. Can you give me any tips? Whatever. And we're more than happy to promote those girls on our Facebook group, on our Instagram. So I think listings is a really important one. And also reach out. We're happy to promote your business. We're happy to give you a hand. We do that for a lot of our girls, and they're the ones that get the most transactions because they are being advertised. So we're happy to help anyone that wants to start. We really appreciate the fact that girls want to get out there. Oh, I just flung my headphones. The girls want to get out there and start their own businesses and make their own money. And it is a really great and easy way to do that. So we're always there to provide a hand. But the listing photos are probably the biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, you can even see in this sort of the animated screenshot, you can immediately see that some of the pieces are really colorful and catch your eye. So I guess it would be the same sort of basic rules as when it comes to social media, right? I mean, if you want to catch people's attention, it's got to be an eye-catching post. It can't just blend into the background, I would assume.
That's right, exactly. So the photos just need to be very high quality.
Right. Is there anything that I would need to do business-wise before I can list on the app? I mean, I would assume I need to be over 18. Am I right with saying that?
Yes, you do. Just for legal reasons.
Yeah,
but
sure.
other than that, nothing. To be honest, jump on there, take photos of your wardrobe, slap them on the app, and you're good to go.
Bank account details, and you're good to go.
Yes. And we actually do. I forgot to mention this before, but this is a very, very big thing that we do. We take photos of the buyer and seller's ID.
Yeah.
It's part of our safe and secure transaction system that we have in the app. It's the same way as if you're, hiring a house on Airbnb, they require you to have your ID. It just helps us to mitigate fraud or any issues that, might be a little bit bigger than us to handle. We've got the ID of each girl that uses the app.
Okay, so that would be something like a driver's license?
Yes.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep.
So that if someone sets up a fake account and does a runner with your $400 dress,
that's right.
You've got the drivers, right.
Exactly.
We can refer that on.
Exactly.
Now, when it comes to apps like this, normally the big hurdle is it takes a while for people to get on, and there's only one person on it. It's not going to work really well. You guys had the Facebook group to start with, so just off the top of your head, like roughly how many people are taking part on the app, both in terms of hiring and renting out or selling? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, so we actually last week just reached 7,000 users on the app, which is really exciting. So it's growing every day, and I actually have the back end on my phone where I can see who's downloaded the app every day and who's on it and what people are posting and what transactions are happening. And it's really encouraging to see that slowly but surely we're growing, and we're part of a program through Melbourne Uni. It's like a velocity program for startups. And we've gotten invaluable, mentorship through that, and investor advice and all of that. So slowly but surely, I think it's coming together really nicely, and we're growing, which is good.
Amazing! Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just weird question in terms of, have you seen any things listed there that you've just gone, wow, that's a bit weird? Like, what's the weirdest or oddest thing that you've seen listed on the app? There must be something.
Oh, look, for the most part, it's what you see on the screen. It's clothes. I
Yeah.
think one time a while ago when we first launched the app, we had someone list their car, which obviously we had to take down. But other than that, it's really just like sometimes I'll see like a dodgy pair of shoes that are like broken, and I
Yeah.
message my co-founders and I'm like, oh, I don't think that should be there. Like, I think we should maybe just message the seller and see
Yeah.
why that's there. But other than the car, there's not really anything odd that's like worth mentioning that has really stood out to me.
Did did they misunderstand that a car is not a piece of clothing? Did they get the wrong app? I mean, how did that even happen?
In our Facebook group, girls try and sell their cars. And so I think,
Oh,
yeah, they'll
sorry.
sell. Yeah, we used to have people like years ago try and sell pets in there. Like, we've had to put parameters around what you can and can't sell because people just run rogue. But we do get
Yeah.
girls trying to sell their cars or see if anyone's interested or knows anyone that wants to buy their car. So I think she kind of got the idea from there.
Okay. All right. Another question. I mean, you've got the back end, so I can only imagine all the information that you get, which I'm really a big nerd on things like that. But have you noticed any fashion trends? Because I mean, you got to see like what's shipping and what's not. So, are you noticing any interesting shipping trends and what people are really hiring or people are really selling a lot of?
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that because I had this conversation as well with my co-founder the other day. We can almost kind of, for the most part, predict if we sit down and do analysis, not off the top
Mm.
of my head, we can kind of predict what the next trend will be in a month's time
Uh,
or whatever,
that's cool.
which is really, really interesting from a back end perspective because we can see what outfits are getting the most traction and what's up and coming that's different to the existing trends. And it's really interesting to see. But I think we've been stuck in this trend of a lot of neutral colors, the hair
Yeah.
clip. We're going back to the 80s a little bit with the little bags. And we've been in that trend for a while. And that has served us really well because there's a lot of outfits, all of this, all really in the same kind of bracket. There's like 10 or 20 outfits that have just been rented out non-stop over the last couple of months. But it is really interesting to see what trends are emerging and what girls are starting to rent out. And we always get the kind of first look into what the next thing is going to be, which is good fun.
That's cool. All right. So
Yeah.
if people want to download the app, best place to go is girlstrade.com.au, and then they can
Yeah.
download the app
Or the
there,
App
get
Store.
started.
Yeah, it's on the App Store as well. Girls Trade. It's there.
Perfect. Just from an entrepreneurial point of view, I mean, obviously you guys have had quite a hell of a ride already getting, launching and COVID and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, People wanting to get started on their entrepreneurial journey, what are some of the biggest lessons or biggest mistakes that you guys have learned from? Like, if you had to do it again, you'd avoid doing certain things.
Oh, I don't think we would avoid doing certain things. I think we've learnt. Would I go back and change anything or do anything differently? No, I wouldn't. I think the biggest piece of advice that would apply to everybody is just to start. I think when you've
Mhm.
got the idea or you know you've got this thing that you want to do something, it can be very hard to just do it because there are so
Yeah,
many from a business perspective, there are so many things that you need to set up before you start your own business, ABNs, shareholder agreements, bank accounts, you know all of that, tax file, all of that
yeah,
stuff that just it hinders your creative flair because there's all these
mm,
hurdles you have to jump through before you can actually start and do the fun stuff. But my advice would be just to start on the fun stuff, map out a little plan, start, and then work everything out as you go. And I know that's probably not always the best way to do it. But I think, especially as women, you know, for so many years, we've been told you know, to shrink and to make ourselves small to make space for men. So when we have
yeah,
these ideas and there's things that we want to do, we always feel like we can't, or we second guess ourselves, or we're not confident in our abilities, or we don't think people are going to believe in us. But I think if you take up space, and
Mm.
just try and go for it, the worst that could happen is that you learn something from it. And I think that is not a very bad thing at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about, how would you know? Because a lot of the girls that I speak to, they have business ideas, but a lot of the time what happens is, I don't know if you can resonate with this, they spend a lot of time perfecting the idea, they go to execute, and they find out, unfortunately, actually the idea wasn't as great as everyone was telling me, because no one buys it. In
Yes.
terms of knowing whether you've got a great idea or not before you execute 10,000 hours into it and hundreds of thousands of dollars and marketing and getting the ACN, the ABN, the TFN, all that stuff, which is not fun. I don't enjoy it. Maybe someone else does. Some weirdo out there loves getting ABNs and stuff. But how do you know if you're onto a winning idea?
So we actually just did this in my velocity course that we're doing with through Melbourne Uni. You need to stress test your idea first. So what you do is you make a mock-up of whatever it is. I don't know, say you want to make custom keep cups. I've got a keep cup on my desk, so that's where I got the idea. You'd make one, and if the idea works, you may send it to a manufacturer and make 10,000 and get them sent to your house. But to start, you make one from scratch, just as like a beta testing version of your product or service, and then you establish what your target audience is, and you stress test the hell out of your idea. So you go to anyone and everyone that's your target audience. You bring them the keep cup and you say, here, use this and tell me what you think.
Yep.
Would you buy it? Why wouldn't you? If the answer is no, why would you? What do you like about it? What could I improve on? How much would you pay for this? Where would you buy this from? Would you recommend it to your friends and family? Do you know anyone that would buy this? Anything like that. And you finesse your product. And that can take like a year to do. It's something that we did through the Facebook group, because obviously building an app can be very expensive. So we wanted to make sure that if we were going to make the app, that there was interest and people actually wanted to use it. So it can be very inexpensive to just make a beta version of your product or service, and you stress test it, you refine it, you finesse it, and then once you've got it perfect and you know that the interest is there, then you can go and make the risk. But I think in any startup or in any business that you choose to start, there is a risk that no one's going to buy into your product or service. So it's a risk that you take anyway, but you can mitigate some of that risk through stress testing.
I think it's so interesting that you were told that, and obviously through the university program, I felt a lot of entrepreneurs, and the common wisdom that I get from the really uber successful ones is that you never make a product or any idea or an app without the target audience in mind. So, I mean, so you guys had the Facebook group, a significant Facebook group. So that's kind of like a big insurance policy, because you are building, what that says, build it with your audience, right? So you literally, when you say beta testing or stress testing, it's like you build it with the audience. You say, I'm thinking of doing this. What features, for example, what features would you guys like?
Exactly.
Then you draft it out, ask them what worked, what didn't work. So you really mitigate that risk to the point where they're actually excited to download it once it comes out. Whereas a lot of people think, oh, what I need is the perfect idea, and that really scares the hell out of me, because they put all their tens of thousands of dollars, like an app. You could easily spend 6 figures on it, and you do that, and no one buys it. It's really difficult to recover from that. You're never going to want to be an entrepreneur again, because you say it's too risky. When in actuality, maybe look, your idea is great. You just need to change one thing, or you just missed like one key piece. So it's really.
So you always just start with the initial idea or the crux of what you want to do and what the end goal is. You work out who the target audience is, and then you create and you finesse that product with the people that are going to be buying it.
With them.
That's
you don't think you know better than them, and you
No.
don't take your product and go, you should want this. Because I've also seen that where people go, you should want this app, you should want this feature. You can't tell your target audience they're wrong. Well, I mean, you laugh, but that's what a lot of people do. They go, you should want this. Like, I don't want it. So what do you want me to do?
I should, but I don't. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
no,
exactly.
I understand. Yeah.
It's the way it is.
It's a very inexpensive way to test your idea out.
Okay. Can you give us, obviously don't divulge company secrets, but in terms of expansion or future plans, what are the future plans with Girls Trade? Because I mean, I'm looking at this and going, it's it's no brainer to me that it's working really well. So what do you guys, now that Corona hopefully is on its way out, fingers crossed, what are the future plans for growth expansion? I got to imagine you got some exciting things lined up.
Yeah, I think when we first were brainstorming, Girls Trade and I started doing the brand strategy before we even had an Instagram or an app or anything.
Mhm.
We spoke about, when Girls Trade is successful, how can we make it bigger?
Mm,
And we thought of like a whole sheet of all these different additional things that we could provide, and ways we could expand. And that's always something that I like to keep, close to my heart, because that is the future for us.
yeah.
But I think in the short term, and even over the next, say, 5 years, we're really focusing on scaling. So
Mm,
at the moment, we've got girls predominantly from Perth, Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne on the app. We want to expand. We want to get more girls on the app. We want to go overseas. We want it to be an international thing. And we want it to be a really usable platform, kind of like Depop, but
yep.
Depop doesn't offer hiring. So there is a gap in the market that we want to fill. So at the moment, we're looking at getting investors on board to be able to scale, because there's obviously a lot of resources that we need to give it
Mm,
that scalability factor. But that is, in the next 3 to 5 years, what we're going to do. And then hopefully once we're there, there are so many different branches of Girls Trade
yeah.
that we can kind of implement.
For sure. Final question about the app. If someone out there, their business idea does revolve around building an app, do you have any general advice as to where you should start with an app? Because A lot of people wouldn't know how you start because it's all programming and uploading to the App Store. I've been through that. It can be a
Yes.
nightmare. And then
Yeah.
B, as you already said, it can be hugely expensive. So
Yeah.
what about general advice for someone thinking about starting an app?
It's a hard one. I have been involved, but I'm only involved in the high level stuff because it's not something that I understand at a reasonable capacity. I understand
Yeah,
generally what we've done, but anything more complex than the very high level stuff, you've lost me. Angus, our co-founder, he liaises with and does all the app development side of
right.
things. Thank goodness for that. But my main piece of advice, I would say, is speak to a mentor first. You will get sucked up in gimmicks, and there are a lot of legalities and issues around tech and around app development that,
Mm,
if you're not aware of, they will own your IP and they will suck you completely dry, and you will pay thousands and thousands and thousands for this app and get nothing in return. So I think, don't pretend that and even if you do research, you go on Google and you research it,
mm,
it's not enough. You need to speak to somebody that has experience in app development and can give you really, really sound advice. I would also even recommend speaking to a lawyer, um, a tech lawyer, so that you're aware of what your rights are, and how the transaction plays out, because it can be so complicated and so challenging and so difficult to do on your own when you don't know anything about it.
yeah.
Yeah,
You're not wrong with the app stuff. I've launched a couple of apps, and obviously the App Store is run by Apple.
that's right.
So you might have the world's greatest idea, but you're still small fish compared to Apple. And there are a lot of companies now that offer app development services, and it's kind of like drag and drop, and you get to make your own app, and they charge like 100,
Yes.
200, $300 a month. And then you look at how good the app actually looks, and then the IP, which you mentioned, and who's taking percentages out of the payments and all that, and it can be an absolute disaster. And
Yeah,
also there's
they
an
really
approval
sting you in
process.
those little,
Yeah.
disclaimers, and and they prey on people that don't know the jargon and the context
Oh
of what
yeah.
they're actually doing. So I think, load up on knowledge from people that actually know what they're talking about. Like, it's
Mm,
totally okay to say, look, I actually have no idea. And to this day,
mm.
I still joke with my co-founder that I have no idea about app dev. I probably know more than the average person now. But in
Yeah.
terms of in terms of the technical stuff and who owns what IP, and how much, I wouldn't have a clue. And I'm not going to pretend to know, because I think that as soon as you pretend to know anything about app dev when you don't, it can be really, really dangerous.
Well, it's also one of those things. I mean, the tech world changes all the time, but app
That's right.
dev, not only does it change all the time, but it's very much behind the scenes. It doesn't normally make the news.
Exactly.
So even if you've launched one, you may not know nothing. You may know nothing about it. I got to say though, the actual app itself looks amazing. Like it
Thank
looks
you. We
really,
designed
really
all
smooth.
the user interface. We were quite lucky. We got to design all of that ourselves in house, and then we got it developed.
Yeah,
So I love that we had a lot of creative ability to kind of make it look the way we
yeah.
wanted it to look, and have each page designed by us. It was really exciting
Yeah.
to be part of that.
Final question. Is there, those bubbles at the top with the different categories?
Yes.
Is there
Is
a
there?
pageants bubble?
No. I knew you were going to ask that.
I'm
No,
thinking
there
that
is
now. There
not.
should be a pageants bubble. Then all the pageant girls will jump right on that one.
I know. The thing is, like, there's not always a lot that separates a pageant dress
Mm,
from the other categories, like evening gown, cocktail dress,
exactly. Yeah.
whatever it is. So we find that there's a lot of crossover. So
Yeah.
it's thank you for the suggestion. But
I'm just thinking because there's literally a Facebook group that's got a few thousand Australian girls in it that's it's a dress swap sort of thing for pageantry, and I'm sure that if there was a pageant bubble there, they'd all jump on it straight away,
a little
especially given
pageant
all the
bubble.
features that your app. I love the bubbles at the top. But I'm
Yeah.
just like, if you put a pageant bubble up there, I bet that would work. I understand exactly where you're coming from, but I
We
bet
should
that
run
would work.
a test. I should do a test version for a few weeks and see how it goes.
Or we can upload it into, because that's a public Facebook group. So you get access to that and just say, hey, we're trying to do this. And we'll keep those girls safe as well, because a lot of the time there are the buyer issues, and if they want to rent, there's a rental issues, and the app takes care of that. It's the
Exactly.
peace of mind would be huge. So I think that'd be great. Okay. Well, that's fascinating. I love what you're doing. I love what your
Thank
team is
you.
doing. How big is the team, just out of interest?
Uh, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 of us working on it. 3 co-founders and 4 in our team.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Small team but powerful. I'm not going to get you to go through the final 10 questions. I have this general rule that by the time it's a third interview, I'm not going to ask the person to answer the same bloody questions again. So just before we wrap up, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to, whether it's pageantry, whether it's girls trade, just life in general? Any shout outs?
Oh, yes. My lovely team, my girls trade team. They're amazing. I wouldn't be able to come on here and talk to you about what we're doing if it wasn't for them. I'm only 1/4 of our success, and it's definitely attributed to how amazing my team is. So and you know what? I'm going to give a really big shout out to all my Miss World girls. Do you know why? They're such a lovely group of girls this year. It honestly, like, I actually can't believe how nice they all are. We've got these little group chats. We all talk. Like, they're all so lovely. And Nationals is coming closer, so they're all getting excited. We actually have a Vic catch up with some of the girls that were able to make it this
Right.
Friday night. We're catching up. Like, it's lovely. And I can't wait to see them all again. So I'll give my last shout out to them.
When is Nationals? July?
9th of July.
Right. Okay. Good
Next
to know.
week.
I'll that way. It's up at the same place as before, isn't it? Palazzo.
Yes, which is lovely.
Okay, cool.
Very good for
That
us.
should be a fun catch up. I think it was really funny because Clara listened to one of my podcast episodes where I try not to divulge any names, so I never know if people want to be told. And she listened to the episode where I was saying I had a dinner and it was like 6 hours later. That
I
was
knew it
with
was me.
Clara.
I knew it.
Well, I don't have 6 hour dinners. That's the
I know.
longest dinner I've ever had.
And I
in a good
heard
way.
it, and I was driving and I was laughing because I was like, that has to be about me. I can't see Adrian having a 6-hour dinner with anybody else. In what world?
We stayed there until the restaurant
They
was
kicked us out.
closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, not because we were drunk, just because we were still there.
No, just
Get two
chatting
people
away.
together talking. It was a lot about pageants, if I remember
Most
correctly.
of it was about pageants. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long dinner. I don't remember anything except we got kicked out, and it was 6 hours. I don't remember what I ate. barely remember where it was, but that was a good time. All right. Okay. Clara, look, thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you for having me.
I will anytime. I will keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience. And
No
guys, if you're
worries.
watching this after the fact or you're watching it on the replay, head to girlstrade.com.au and you can download the app, or obviously you can search it on the App Store. And if you have any questions, as Clara said, get in touch with the team, especially if you want to start up your own business. I think that'd be great because I know a lot of you watching have very big wardrobes. And it's like, what do I do with it? Well, turn it into a business. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And we will speak to you next time. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder to you entrepreneurial types to come and join us at our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/the Pageant Boss. I'll see you inside and see you in the next episode.